more structured and with more attention, it's easier to see how that can be implemented back home. And one thing that is very important is that mental health and the mental health fields are always adapting, always growing, always improving themselves, as any field, but especially this one, and after the pandemic even more, because everybody now is more aware of the impact of mental health and not taking care of it. So this is an important part of the perspective that we want to keep in mind, because definitely taking into account the context you're working in, as Angela and Nadia were saying, it's very important, taking into account the culture and how people understand the world in a different way depending on what they learned and how they were raised. And that's something that we sometimes don't think about, and we think that everybody sees the world the way we see it, and it's not like that, and that affects mental health precisely. So it is very important to take into account, to be able to improve in our mental health, to know that context and culture is always going to affect. And of course, research. Unfortunately, in Latin America, information that is created here in the US, where there's more funding and where there's a bunch of universities working towards understanding better our mental health, that information takes years to get across the continent. So even though we're in a 5-hour flight, it takes around 5-10 years for the information to get there, because it gets lost in translation, because there's no funding, because different cultural aspects, because there's no interest. So there are amazing things happening here in the US, in the different universities, in the different NGOs, like Heartland, where we're working in, and I assume in Nadia's too. And that information is staying here, but it is needed everywhere in the world, because the US is not the only place that has to be aware of their mental health. This is a worldwide problem. And knowing the impact that the US has in the world, I think it's important to take all this knowledge and facilitate and make it easier for this information to travel abroad and to be useful abroad, taking into account that it's not a matter of copy-pasting information, because definitely culture and context has influence in it. So it's about taking this information and doing good adaptations to it in the rest of the world, and that's precisely part of our job being here, and is seeing what's being done here and being able to apply that everywhere else that we're going. So that's definitely important. Now you can go to the next slide. And that's why we believe, and we finish this presentation with this quote, which is one of the most vital ways we sustain ourselves, but is by building communities of resistance, places where we know we are not alone. And this is important because only if we work as a whole community worldwide, not just as divided as we are, like this is my country, this is like what I want to do in my country because I'm thinking about the well-being of my country, but understanding that each country has a part in building a global mental health. And we find this very important because in terms of social justice, in terms of equality, in terms of this, like what you are working for, and this, how all this information is relevant for everybody in the world, it is important to know that mental health is also relevant everywhere, and it's not the same for everyone. So acknowledging that is what we need to do to start making a change, and understanding that bringing back the intention of this meeting at the beginning is mental health is what is going to help us stop this violent cycle, stop this shootings, wars, in like unconformity, because it's based on the fact that we're not able to process our feelings, our emotions. Is not is us making decisions for the reasons that sometimes are not the best, and not thinking in the whole like world as a community. So that's pretty much what we came here to say today. So you can go to the next one. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for this space. And if you have any questions that we can help you with, just let us know.